Hi, I'm Debbie Georgatos. Welcome to my show, America, Can We Talk? Today, we're going to talk about Biden snoozes while Trump storms, Trump drives Goodyear nuts, black opportunity, leftists oppose while America funds, and Michelle Obama versus Kimberly Klacik. And of course, I'll tell you why these stories matter to you. Stay tuned.
Debbie Georgatos, host of America Can We Talk, is an author, attorney, and political analyst whose mission is to inspire the American political conversation about preserving liberty in the best country on earth.
And welcome again to America Can We Talk and to today's First Five. I'm Debbie Georgatos. So, we had the Democratic convention last week. I actually didn't do a show last Thursday, was back east at a conference in Washington, D.C., had a chance to watch with this relatively small number of people at a conference to watch Biden's remarks. And then, of course, today we're kicking off the GOP convention. I want to start with Biden. It's a funny thing. I was at a conference with a lot of conservatives. I mean, it's a relatively small conference, but they had offered at the end of the day, you know, if anybody wants to watch the Biden's acceptance speech, then, you know, we'll have it on the big screen, this big ballroom, you know, plenty of seats, plenty of places. So a lot of people left. I was curious because I do this show. I wanted to listen to him. I wanted to assess his mannerisms and what he was saying and promising. And what ended up happening was I'm sitting in this room. We've been there all day. Great meetings. We had, you know, great speakers. We actually had the president come and speak. And while we're standing in this room, and they say, well, you can hang around if you want. You know, people are leaving. I'm thinking, well, I'm going to stay. So I talked to some people in the hallway, went back in. End of the story, not even halfway into the speech, to Biden's speech, I was the only one in the room. I'm standing there going, okay, I guess I'm the last one here. People couldn't stand it. But that is the conservative crowd. But on a serious note, I want to mention that Biden did his speech, his acceptance of the nomination for presidency, and he did manage to get through the speech. I have talked to you and told you all, if you listen regularly, I say Joe Biden is suffering from some degree of dementia. He has diminished mental capacity. He's not able to handle normal conversations, normal interactions with media. He just can't handle it. He did manage to hold his own, relatively speaking, reading from a teleprompter, reading his acceptance speech. However, the points I want to hit in First Five today are, for all of the spin the media tries to tell America, all the spin that says, there's going to be a landslide for Biden. He's way up. He's 11 points up in the swing states, and America can't wait to get rid of President Trump. I'm telling you, people, that was a snoozer of a speech, and it was a snoozer of a convention. Nothing exciting, nothing animating, nothing loving about America, nothing expressed about the goodness of America. It was boring and accusatory. If you had to boil it down to two words: boring, repetitious, same promises they make every 4 years and never fulfill, and accusatory, the ultimate endless accusation against the people of America that they're really terrible, bad people that they, the Democrats, need to punish through policies that they will put in place. But the other thing that happened, interesting to note about the convention, was how few people listened. So the most of the entire Democratic convention last week, the most people tuned in to listen to Biden. That's to be expected. So we had 21.8 million people tune in live that night. 21.8 million people. That number marks a 21% drop from Hillary Clinton's speech 4 years ago. 21% fewer people tuned into Biden's acceptance speech than tuned into Hillary Clinton's acceptance speech. That is huge. This is a signal. People are not excited, despite what the media tells you. They're not excited. They do not want to hear what Joe Biden has to say, and they know we can't really talk anyway. Even more so, and interesting to note, a 38% lower tune-in number than President Trump's speech. Now President Trump's speech in 2016, which had 34.9 million viewers. Point is, nobody's tuning in to listen to Biden. It was also one of the shortest speeches since at least 1984. Shortest presidential acceptance speech since 1984. They had to keep it short, keep it crisp, and get him off the camera. But my real point, my takeaway on the Biden thing is that there was just a utter lack of interest on the part of the American people. It's not interesting to tune in to Biden. That doesn't mean that some people won't vote for him out of pure disdain for President Trump or whatever other reason they have, but this is an unexciting campaign to the Democrat base. They're not excited, they're not on fire, they're just tolerating Biden as their candidate. Contrast that with what started today in Charlotte, the Republican National Committee. We're having the Republican convention this week. I want to say what I really like about how this administration is approaching the convention is that they feel, despite the unbelievably lengthy list of accomplishments President Trump has made during his first term, almost with no help from elected Republicans in the House and Senate, truly a president who has fulfilled his promises. They say promises made, promises kept, over and over. But there's a refreshing, like the analogy be a spring in their step, a spring in their movements, in their thinking about what they want to tell the American people the Trump administration, plans to do for the next 4 years after he is reelected. So they have, first of all, they have divided the days of the convention into meaningful terms. Monday, America as the land of promise. Tuesday, the land of opportunity. Wednesday, the land of heroes. Thursday, the land of greatness. They are focusing in on inspiring people to love America, to appreciate America, a message the Democrat Party can never, ever, ever, ever go to, because their entire campaign every year is about how terrible America is, how many victims there are in America, how all victims should unite together and vote Democrats in so they can institute all sorts of punishments on the bad guys who have hurt these poor American citizens. So there you go. You have the Republicans kicking theirs off. There was also a list of convention speakers released. That's it. List of convention speakers released. And they have, of course, at the GOP convention, as they did the Democrat convention, they have, the kind of rock stars, the exciting people. And they also mentioned some of the early press releases were saying that President Trump is going to speak every night of the convention. And then other people are now saying, nah, not too sure he's going to do that. That was an idea they floated. I kind of like that. I like the contrast between low energy, not able to handle the job, Joe Biden, and the endless energy, just kind of astonishing, endless energy of President Trump. I don't know if it's going to try. He'll speak every day at the convention, but that was among the plans that they floated and was apparently going to be the case. But they have great speakers coming up. The one speaker I want to focus on in closing out this first five is somebody who is going to be, we'll be talking about more on the show today, and that is a Republican candidate for U.S. Congress, a first-time candidate, a black Republican woman running for a seat in the U.S. Congress from Baltimore. And she has rock star level, galvanized conservatives around the country with one campaign ad. One campaign ad has just fired up people, so much so she released this campaign ad. It went way past viral, just went all over the country. People were so excited. A young, pretty, savvy, full of energy, young black conservative woman in Baltimore saying, I'm running as a Republican, and I want to show you what the Democrat Party has done to Baltimore and to cities around this country. I'll play her ad a little later in the show. I have it ready to play. I'm going to close out by saying very wisely, smartly, the Republicans have invited her. Her name is Kimberly Klacik. Candidate Kimberly Klacik will be speaking at the RNC convention, and it's a fabulous thing. She is really going to be a rock star, I think, whether she wins that seat or not. She's going to be a rock star because she's getting the message out there to the American people that Democrat policies have destroyed majority black cities and inner city America for decades, and it's time to hold them accountable, time to stop cheering them on. One more thing back to the GOP, just to point out that the difference in the feel. The Democrat convention was a week of whining and moping and complaining and criticizing and accusing America of being a bad place. Republican convention, full of energy, full of promise. One particular thing that President Trump came out with, and we'll be hearing more about, he's got a theme for his second term. The theme is Fighting for You. He's issued a 49-point list of promises, list of agenda items he's going to accomplish falling into 10 categories. He's basically saying we're going to keep on making America even greater. The energy, the passion is there with the Republican side at this convention week at least. We'll see going forward how they do going into the fall. But at this point, you contrast the Democrat convention and the Republican convention, hands down, the Republicans have the energy, the passion, the fire, and actually an agenda, a set of promises that are uplifting, that are supportive of the idea of America. That kind of concept could not be found in the Democrat ranks. And that, my very fine friends, is today's First Five. So I want to talk about this little controversy that had Trump drives Goodyear nuts. Yeah, he drove them nuts. And I want to just tell you what happened if you didn't see this story. And it's not just the great thing that happened in this little story I'm going to tell you, but again, I talk about this so often on my show, and I want to make this point again every chance I get. Republicans tend to get going during campaign season. They identify a particular candidate. We have an election coming up, and then we run candidates, and we put themes and speeches out there. Well, candidate Joe, and he's running on this, and so-and-so is running on this. We run candidates and think of campaign themes, and then we try to persuade the American people that we have great ideas through these campaign themes. On the other hand, Democrats in this country for decades have dedicated themselves to be in 24/7 campaign mode every day, every year, all day long. Every day, all year long. Democrats are in campaign mode. And by that I mean not so much that the party itself is doing things, although they are, but there are leftist activist groups in this country striving to orchestrate to manipulate the American people, to orchestrate people's views about things, to shape people's views so we become, without even realizing it, without even thinking of what's happening as a political presentation that you're hearing. The Democrats work very hard, along with their allies in the mainstream media. I often call them the Democrat media mob. They work very hard to shape America's thinking and viewpoints in subtle ways so that when you get to campaign season, they've already won the argument. It almost doesn't even matter what their candidates say because they have attempted to shape the American view. A great example we talk about at great length on the show has to do with what the radical left has done in this country really in the last numerous decades, which has invaded academia, kindergarten through 12th, college, grad school, invaded academia with radical leftists who have been teaching our children for decades that socialism is good, communism is great, capitalism is evil, America's an evil country, America was evil from its founding. These ideas, this is a great example of what the left does over and over and over, psych op operation. They are trying to psychologically manipulate the American people. So we look around, we educated Americans, actually familiar with world history, recognize how horrible socialism is, the misery communism has caused, but we're hearing young people get out of college and they think because they're educated that they know that socialism is great and communism is even greater and capitalism is evil and freedom is bad and America is an evil country. And we say, how the heck did these people emerge from education thinking this? And the answer is because the left is always and forever on a mission to manipulate the people's thinking in America. So here's a great example of Goodyear. At a Goodyear plant in Kansas, workers at a Goodyear plant in Kansas were treated to a diversity training. So some outside company comes in and they're teaching people all about how to be tolerant and accepting and love diversity, whatever the way they characterize what they were selling, what they were doing. Goodyear chose, I assume attendance at this diversity thing was required. I don't know. It may have been voluntary, but I'm going to guess it was required. Goodyear trying to signal its, virtue signal. It's, oh yeah, we're a great company. We're trying to help. Set up a diversity training brought in by an outside company. Well, an employee at Goodyear managed to snap a picture of the screen. What was shown to them in this diversity training at this Goodyear plant in Kansas. The training for the employees said, some kinds of displays of personal opinions, such as message on your hat, message on your shirt, whatever other way you can message. Some of those messages are appropriate and some are non-appropriate. And they had a slide labeled zero tolerance. They have zero tolerance for things that are inappropriate. Here's what they let people know were inappropriate things to have on your clothing, to wear to work when you work at Goodyear at this plant in Kansas. Unacceptable section included Blue Lives Matter, referring to police. Blue Lives Matter. All lives matter. Any MAGA attire, M-A-G-A, Make America Great Again, any MAGA attire. Political, affiliated slogans or material. These are all zero tolerance, unacceptable in this diversity training for these employees at Goodyear. Acceptable, appropriate messaging that you were allowed to wear, according to this training, included Black Lives Matter, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender pride, and another long list of things. Leftist causes, those are considered appropriate, and Blue Lives Matter, and the other ones I just read to you, were not appropriate. So I tell you the story to say this became known. This guy, somebody who worked there, took a picture of it, put it up on Twitter, and said, hey, this is kind of crazy. At my job at Goodyear, this is a training I'm getting about diversity. So President Trump, which I just love, President Trump weighed in. Instead of just having, as we in America, so many people, we recognize that corporations are pressured by leftists, and so it's just easier for corporate boards to go, okay, leftists are pushing us. Let's tell our employees they can't wear a MAGA symbol. They can't say all lives matter. They can't say blue lives matter. They can't say anything because it's easier for corporate boards and corporate decision makers, corporate management, to surrender to the pressure of the left, because the left is, if nothing else, perpetually relentless. The left never gives up. They campaign, they push their ideas 24/7, and so fortunately, President Trump became aware of this Goodyear thing. So Trump tweeted out, and here's Trump's tweet: "Don't buy Goodyear tires. They announced a ban on MAGA hats. Get better tires for far less." And then he puts in parentheses, "This is what the radical left Democrats do. Two can play the same game, and we have to start playing it now." There was also some, kind of joking around about how, and I don't know, maybe it was serious, about how even the presidential limousine that President Trump rides around in has Goodyear tires. He's saying maybe we'll even trade those out. The point of telling you the story is, it's a little tiny example of fighting back. And it's the kind of fighting back we all need to be doing more and more and more. Goodyear surrendered to the pressure of the left because everyone knows what happens if you don't surrender, if you don't just salute and do what the radical left in this country tells you to do. If you don't do what they do, you're in danger of having a Twitter mob attack you, of having somebody label Goodyear as a racist company, Goodyear refused to denounce racism, and they recognize the left operates as a mob 24/7. So too many corporations go, okay, I'm going to steer clear of the leftist mob. Fine. Okay, we'll let this training come in. We'll say you can't say blue lives matter, but you can say black lives matter. They go along with it because it's easier. It's easier to surrender than to stand up. So I love that President Trump pushed back. He put that tweet out. And then I want to share with you the mealy-mouthed answer that Goodyear came up with. I saw people commenting online that, oh, Goodyear has, they backed off. Okay, never mind. Not exactly. They didn't really back off. What they issued a statement to saying they, first of all, they didn't, they said the slide was not part of any diversity training class. Now, I'm sorry, it wasn't any part of a diversity training class that Goodyear put on, the big, large corporation. But Goodyear, located in Kansas, did hire an outside entity filled with radical leftist mobsters who put this training on and got caught. But Goodyear says in their response, but they didn't deny, they said they really try to steer clear, they want to have a ban on political messaging. They're saying, to be clear on our long-standing corporate policy, Goodyear has zero tolerance for any forms of harassment or discrimination. To enable a workplace environment free of those, we ask that associates refrain from workplace expressions in support of political campaigning for any candidate or political party, as well as similar forms of advocacy that fall outside the scope of racial justice and equity issues. So they just actually confirmed that they do comply with exactly what this diversity training was saying. They are going to call, if you have a Black Lives Matter hat, Black Lives Matter messaging, then you're probably part of racial justice and equity issues. And so that's okay. But if you have All Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter, where does that fall in this distinction they're trying to make? It was a complete mealy-mouthed failure of honesty on the part of Goodyear to say, you know what, okay, we're Goodyear, yeah, we bravely say, we stand with the left, we stand with Black Lives Matter, we don't like MAGA. Go ahead and say that. Take a position and deal with it. Deal with the fact that you're going to have conservatives who don't want to buy your products. But instead of doing that, they try to, walk this kind of tightrope. Well, we don't like political things, but if it deals with racial justice and equity issues, so what they're saying is leftist agitation demanding racial justice, which is the Marxist Black Lives Matter movement. That's okay with them. But someone defending police officers is considered too political and not okay. So the White House has pushed back to say, what exactly and specifically could you please clarify your policy? Are you calling Blue Lives Matter an equity issue? My point in telling you this story, besides I love that someone finally fought back against the left, I wanted to say it's part of what all of us have to be doing in this country more and more and more. President Trump, I know there are plenty of people, even people on the right, people who are the Mitt Romney, senatorial, too dignified and intellectual to get into the battle over culture in America, they probably say, why can't Trump just be quiet? What is Goodyear? What does he care what Goodyear does? But we lose elections because we lose the culture. We lose elections because we lose the culture, because we don't battle it out at the cultural level. So you have the left battling it out, pushing their radical leftist views in every avenue of American life, and then when conservatives or anyone on the right-hand side of the aisle even speaks up, you have some of the naysayers, the ninnies on our side saying, well, that's kind of getting down the weeds. We're above that. We're just going to talk about tax policy. Trump is right. Get in the cultural fight. Get in the cultural fight. Fight back when you find a company, a school, an organization is embracing and tolerating leftist viewpoints while shutting down the right. This is happening all over our country, in organizations, in businesses, in communities, in schools, all over our country. We have become accustomed to saluting to the left because it's easier to do, because nobody wants to be attacked by the Twitter mob of the left. But what happens is, these kind of little skirmishes, if you don't fight back, the left wins. If you don't fight back, the left wins. And so I love that Trump did this. I want to mention something else. This conference I was at over the weekend, I heard a great speech by Brent Bozell, founder of Media Research. And he was stellar, making this point. And I was trying to take notes. He was talking really fast, but I was trying to take notes. The points being that we conservatives, patriots, who actually think the Constitution matters, who actually believe in the foundational liberties of America, we have been very late in the game in the battle in the cultural arena, and then we're surprised to see election outcomes. We have to be fighting it at every stage. He gave an example of in Virginia, I think it was, and it's happening around the country, but you have kindergartners in public schools in Virginia and other places being taught transgender advocacy, being taught that you may really think you're a boy, you're a girl, and your mommy and daddy may have said that. Hey, but you can be anything you want. You can decide for yourself. The doctor just picked something when you were born, but you're in charge of whether you're a boy or a girl. You can decide. You can change your mind. You can change your gender. In kindergarten, The only way to fight back against this radical leftist assault on this country is to fight back at the ground game level day after day after day. Get in the battle you care about. If it's in your public school and your little kindergartner comes home and says, Mommy, Mom, the teacher told me I'm really not a boy after all. Get in the fight. Get on the case to the school board. Present your arguments to the school board. Pull your kids out of school. Whatever the issues are, you have to understand the left is able, they believe they're going to be able in this election 2020 to really turn the corner and bring this country toward the radical Marxist revolution that they have been pushing for decades, and they've been succeeding in doing that because they have won battle after battle after battle where you cannot, for example, state you believe in traditional marriage. Say that you think marriage is between a man and a woman. You can't say the most basic common sense things we've all known for thousands of years without being called a hater, a xenophobe, a homophobe, whatever the word they would come up with. And so people get silenced. People get silenced and then what happens is the leftist wins. If we keep on being silent, the left wins argument after argument after argument. And then the battle to get back on track, to bring America back, is even harder. I love that Trump spoke up about Goodyear. All of us should be speaking up about the issues that are making America so driving America down the leftist playing field. And we sit in the sidelines hoping maybe, in fact, the Brent Bozell analogy was, whenever, if you picture a football field, every time there's a battle, the left demands, they demand 30 yards, and we, instead of saying, we're not getting into you at all, no, we claim on the conservative side, okay, we'll give you 20 yards. And they go, okay. We capitulate and capitulate and capitulate on issue after issue after issue, and we never stand up. I don't mean anyone. Very few conservatives ever stand up for very basic, simple, fundamental American ideas. We capitulate to the left, and the next battle comes around, and the left drags us down to the next yard line, and we keep capitulating. Okay, one more yard, and then we're really going to start standing up. Okay, one more yard, and then we're really mean, we're going to start standing up. And now, as he's saying, we're at the 10-yard line. The left has, the radical left, the anti-American Marxist left, has moved our country and our culture so far to the left that they're near their finish line. Our job is to start pushing back. As he's saying, no more compromises. No more compromises, no more giving an inch. It never happens. The left never gives an inch to conservative ideas. Time for us to be just as feisty, to be just as committed to defending our ideas. Love that Goodyear story. Okay, next thing I want to hit today, this is really kind of an interesting story. So I mentioned this conference I was at. I saw a lot of conservatives that you would know, including Star Parker, who's been on this show many times. She is the founder of CURE, the Center for Urban Renewal and Education in Washington, D.C. She was actually talking to me about this story, but I'm going to tell you about it. So, her mission and the mission of CURE is to bring the message of the Constitution, conservatism, Christianity to the inner cities of America. She often works through their pastors, brings her organization's message to those communities through their pastors that we want. In fact, she has capitalism as a big one there. She understands the evil of socialism. She understands what the left is doing with socialism. So it's capitalism, the Constitution, conservatism, and Christianity. She's pushing all of those. So her organization, funded by donors, her organization put up signs, and I can't remember if I sent Matt the Wonderful this picture of a billboard. I want to show you the billboard she put up in cities around the country, including this. Okay, leave that up there for a while here. Tired of poverty? This is for a billboard put up by Star Parker and her organization CURE. And this is on a billboard. This particular one happened to be in Milwaukee, but they're all over the country. Tired of poverty? So here's her prescription. Finish school, take any job, get married, save and invest, give back to your neighborhood. And as you can see, one person pictured in the sign, a young black woman. And so, leaving that picture up for a moment, I want to tell you, this message is a quintessential message of basic truth. It is not even really advocacy. It is not even, it's not speculation. It is not pretend. It is not, kind of fanciful. This is fact. We've talked on the show many times about not just the Brookings Institute, which is a leftist research think tank, but research projects done by Brookings Institute and dozens of other, maybe not dozens, half a dozen other organizations have proved time after time after time after time. If you want to stay out of poverty in this country, if you want to stay out of poverty, stay in school, finish high school, don't have kids till you get married, don't get married till you're at least 20, get a job. I mean, these are basic things. And the Brookings Institute study in particular, those items I just mentioned, if you do those things, you have almost a 0% chance of ending up in poverty in America. This was Star Parker's mission in putting up these signs around the country. Do these things, and then you can avoid poverty. And she is trying to uplift the black communities in inner cities in America. That's who she targets, is black neighborhoods in any inner city America. Star Parker does this through her organization. She puts that sign up, and to say the least, she got pushback. In Milwaukee, where some of these signs were, there was a backlash in Wisconsin, and the backlash was people who were saying that sign you just saw had to be taken down because it was insensitive, because it failed to acknowledge systemic racism, failed to acknowledge institutional racism, failed to acknowledge America's long history, and they're basically saying because that billboard did not spell out the litany of leftist accusations against America, institutional racism, systemic racism, accusations which many black conservatives in this country denounce, deny, reject. Black conservatives in this country will not even buy into the leftist argument about institutional racism and structural racism. They say, no, that's a bunch of hogwash. That is what the left does, what they argue to get their Marxist policies in place. So in Milwaukee, people protested these signs that they call the sign racist, insensitive to those in poverty, failed to acknowledge all these accusations against America that the left makes. And so that if you saw on that sign, it said at the top, Clear Channel happens to own that billboard. Clear Channel took the billboard down because it was insensitive, because you shouldn't say those things. You shouldn't point out that there's a path out of poverty. You shouldn't point out that a path out of poverty includes finish school, get a job, get married, live a responsible life. And I want to make a really deep and important point in this election season and why we're talking about this at this time. The American left needs black America to feel victimized. The American left needs black America to be blaming the rest of America for everything wrong in their lives. The American left needs impoverished black Americans to remain impoverished black Americans so that that group remains a reliable voting base for the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party's messaging, their mission is forever and a day to make every single individual in this country somehow find the victim category you fit into, and you slip yourself into that silo, and that's where you live politically, and the Democrat Party would have no future if a majority of black Americans realized that they are being used by the left to get into power, to stay in power, to forward their radical Marxist agenda. If America, if black Americans, if every poor American began to work their way out of poverty, understood the message of that sign that said, you know what, stay in school, get a job, get married, invest in your community. If every American, black, white, any skin color, learned those lessons and lived that life and became self-sufficient, became self-reliant, the Democrat Party could not win elections. It is the most malicious and evil thing that the Democrat Party does to the black population in this country, which is to tell them your only identity, your only reason for being, who you must see yourself as a helpless, hapless victim, and the only solution you have to your plight because you can't ever get out of it. Don't think, this is the Democrat Party's message to Black America, don't you think you can get out of poverty by embracing capitalism, by embracing the free market system, by staying in school, by getting a job, by moving forward in life, by getting married, establishing a life for yourself. Don't you think that path is available to you? No, 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 no. The systemic racism, institutional racism, it'll stop you. You don't have that path available to you. The only path Black America has, the Democrat Party tells them, the only only path forward in life Black America has is to vote for Democrats who will then provide a bigger and bigger welfare state. This is the message of the Democrat Party. This is why people in Milwaukee were so upset about those billboards. They're upset because if you saw a turning, if you had the people in inner city Black Americans living in inner city America, impoverished communities, if you had them all embracing the message of that sign, all saying, you know what, we can do better. We're going to turn our lives around. We don't need the Democrat Party to be our nanny and our mommy. We don't need the Democrat Party to take care of us every step of the way. We can be self-sufficient. We can finish school. We can get a job. We can move forward. If that happened, the Democrats could not win another election, and they are completely and totally familiar with this reality. So leftist opposition to that sign is leftist opposition continuing their mission they have engaged in for decades, which is to use impoverished Black Americans as political pawns to get their votes, to increase their leftist, Marxist growth of the federal government and growth of federal dependency programs. So Star Parker, putting those messages up all over America, is livid. She's livid that what is happening is she can't put a message up like that says, you know, this is a great country, you can do this, stay in school, you know, all the things the sign said. She's livid because what she's discovering is Clear Channel, another corporate wimp, took the sign down because people complained about it, that, you know, it was racist, it was insensitive. You have to recite the entire history of systemic racism or else you can't put a sign up like that. And they surrendered. They just gave in. So I want to contrast that, how the left behaves. Leftists wanted that sign down because, heaven forbid, in America, impoverished Americans of any skin color, impoverished Americans figured out that the Democrat Party uses the poor to maintain political power, and that nothing the Democrat Party ever does actually helps people lift out of poverty. That's why people demanded that sign be taken down. Let me contrast that with opportunity zones. One of the central and seminal provisions of President Trump's first budget in 2017 was the creation of opportunity zones. The idea of getting private investment in inner city America so that people would, wealthy people, very wealthy Americans, would invest money in inner cities and build businesses there, because then you would have the opportunity for jobs, for therefore stability in the community, economic stability. If you can create jobs in those communities, and then people can live in their communities and go to work and earn a paycheck and learn the joy and the freedom and just the great feeling you have of self-reliance. This is what opportunity zones were all about. America has stepped up big, big, big time with opportunity zones, to the point of Americans, this is private Americans, I mean maybe corporations or individuals, but the point is opportunity zones is an investment by the private sector in low-income communities to say, you know what, we want you to be raised out of poverty. Nobody wants these cities in the kind of poverty they're in. Nobody likes inner city poverty. Everybody wants to help lift Americans out of it. So in America, these opportunity zones got rolling, and to date, there have been $75 billion, B as in boy billion, $75 billion put into opportunity zones by Americans in this country. Private sector Americans. These are the same Americans that the left points to when they accuse America of being filled with racists and filled with systemic racism, institutional racism. The reality is America stepped up America stepped up in response to this opportunity zone because everybody of every skin color, race, ethnicity, national origin hates poverty, wants to find a way to lift people out of poverty, wants to inspire people to find a way forward to become self-reliant. It's the American way, it's the American dream. It's what Star Parker is trying to teach them through her CURE organization. And this is America, the not racist America, despite what the left says. This is the Americans stepping up and saying, opportunity zones, we're all for it. We want to help. America is filled with good and noble and generous Americans doing great things to help each other, including private individuals and private corporations donating $75 billion to opportunity zones, which are indeed making headway in low-income communities, providing jobs. Keep that dichotomy in mind. What Star Parker and Herstein were trying to say is give individuals in those communities a sense of hope, an idea of a path forward, how to get out of poverty. In fact, it started with tired of poverty, stay in school, get a job, get married, establish yourself in a responsible lifestyle. That's what the message was. Her message is, let us help you. You can help yourself. And the leftists in that city could not stand the idea that maybe Star Parker's ideas would inspire some poor citizens to do better in life, to find a path forward, and they complained about the sign as being racist instead of celebrating that this was another way the truth of how to move forward in America was being brought to the low-income citizens in their city. One last story I just cannot wait to tell you. We'll probably be talking about this young lady more, but there's a woman who's running for Congress, Kimberly Klacik. I sent Matt the Wonderful an ad. This is her first ad. She put out an ad for her campaign for Congress. I want to play it and then we'll talk about it. It's Kimberly Klacik running for U.S. Congress from Baltimore.
Do you care about Black lives? The people that run Baltimore don't. I can prove it. Walk with me. They don't want you to see this. I'm Kim Klacik. This is Baltimore, the real Baltimore. This is the reality for Black people every single day. Crumbling infrastructure, abandoned homes, poverty, and crime. Baltimore has been run by the Democrat Party for 53 years. What is the result of their decades of leadership? Baltimore is one of the top 5 most dangerous cities in America. The murder rate in Baltimore is 10 times the U.S. average. The Baltimore poverty rate is over 20%. Homicide, drug, and alcohol deaths are skyrocketing in our city. Do you believe Black Lives Matter? I do. The vast majority of crime in Baltimore is perpetrated against Black people, who make up 60% of the population. So why don't we care about our communities? The Democrat Party have betrayed the Black people of Baltimore. If the politicians walked the streets like I do, they would see exactly how their policies and corruption affects us. But they don't want to see it. They don't want you to see this. Go to any Baltimore neighborhood and ask this question. Do you want to defund the police?
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
I had 3 sons killed in Baltimore City. And I think if we defund the police officer, it's going to be worse than that. So no, I'm opposed to that.
What are you going to defund the police for? Why? How do you defend your city, your community? Families are losing people.
It's not just Baltimore. The worst place for a Black person to live in America is a Democrat-controlled city. It's 2020. Name a blue city where Black people's lives have gotten better. Try. I'll wait. Look at this. How are children supposed to live here and play here? Democrats think Black people are stupid. They think they can control us forever, that we won't demand better and that we'll keep voting for them forever, despite what they've done to our families and our communities. Are they right? I'm Kim Klacik, and I'm running for Congress because I actually care about Black lives. All Black lives matter. Our communities matter. Baltimore matters. And Black people don't have to vote Democrat.
Okay, is that like the best ad you've ever seen in your entire life? So that ad went viral. I'll close out today's show by saying that ad went so viral that more people watched that ad than watch Michelle Obama at the Democrat convention. And again, we talked about Michelle Obama's speech at the Democrat convention, and I want to just remind you one thing to contrast what Michelle Obama is saying, what this lady's saying. Michelle Obama was, the big thing the media touted was that she was urging empathy. Why don't we have more empathy? We have to have empathy. And she has a very sugary, kind of tender way of speaking about it. She says empathy. She means tyranny. She means tyrannical Marxism. She's calling tyrannical Marxism empathy. She's not volunteering to spend her own money. She's not volunteering to give away the millions of dollars she and Barack have made. She's saying if America will vote for Democrats, we will become tyrants, we will take away other people's money, and with that, we'll show empathy. Empathy is not when you steal somebody else's money and then give it to somebody else. That's not empathy. That's Marxism, communism. This is what the left is all about. Do not give her credit for advocating for empathy. Do not give Michelle Obama credit for advocating for empathy. She's advocating Marxism. Unlike Kimberly Klacik, who's trying to make the point that, and she's been a real conservative activist for a while, I'm just becoming more familiar with her. She's trying to make the point that Democrat policies have damaged and harmed black communities and black families for decades. Time to stop voting that way. I love it. The Republicans are going to have her speak at the convention. There's Kimberly Klacik, which is going to be one humdinger of a speech, I am sure. Okay, my very fine friends, before I get to why it matters to you, I want to tell you that I'm hosting a conference in Dallas on September 26th. It's called American Women and American Freedom. I have a stellar lineup of speakers. It is going to be very high energy, very dynamic, and filled with ideas and arguments and passion about how we defend America, how we as each individual person, as patriots who want to defend this country, helping us all learn how to speak better, defending against the Marxists who are literally around the corner in this election cycle. How to defend America's freedom on a whole host of issues. So if you're interested in this conference, again, in Dallas, September 26th, email me at americacanwetalk@gmail.com, and I'll give you more information. And now I'm going to tell you why the stories we talked about today matter to you. So we start out our story today. Biden snoozes and Trump storms. I just love that. Biden's DNC speech, many takes spliced together, no one could tell for sure. He cleared a very low bar, but TV ratings down 21% from Hillary Clinton in 2016 and down 38% from Trump in 2016. These ratings do not correlate to a big Biden lead in the polls. The polls are bogus. President Trump plans to speak every night at the RNC convention. Now it's unclear if that's right, but we'll find out. The contrast of energy and focus could not be greater, presenting a 10-category, 49-point agenda and vision for a second term. Themes for RNC's 4 days: American promises, opportunities, heroes, and greatness. Democrats are selling, we hate Trump. Trump is selling, I love America. It's an easy choice. And on Trump drives Goodyear nuts, Goodyear employee outs a photo of Goodyear company training materials. Prohibited, all lives matter, blue lives matter, and MAGA. Permitted, Black Lives Matter, LGBT pride. There were more things, but couldn't get to all of them. A reminder that the left is at work all the time, everywhere, pushing its agenda, and corporate America is weak and craven. President Trump was right to call Goodyear out, and his willingness to fight, to push back, is exactly why he has a 96% approval rating among Republican voters. Goodyear's public about face was in the right direction, but still politically correct and tepid. The Goodyear training materials were not an aberration or a mistake. It's how too many in corporate America think. Lots of good tire choices made in America. And black opportunity, leftists oppose, while GOP funds, and actually America funds. Star Parker's Milwaukee billboard campaign. Tired of poverty? Finish school, take any job, get married, save and invest, give back to your neighborhood. This was so controversial it had to be taken down. Leftists demand billboards taken down, and Clear Channel, the billboard company, capitulated. The ideas of taking personal responsibility and striving for self-sufficiency eliminate victims. They eliminate the reason for the Democrat Party to exist. President Trump's opportunity zones have attracted $75 billion in private investment in downtrodden areas of the U.S. This could not happen in a systemically racist country. personal responsibility, and individual striving, our America, and therefore all Americans. Interested in hearing from Star Parker live? She's one of my speakers on September 26th. So let me know if you want to attend our American Women and American Freedom Conference. And the last story for the day, two last stories, Black Opportunity, Leftists Oppose, GOP Funds. No, sorry, I did that one. Sorry. Okay, last one is Michelle Obama versus Kimberly Klacik and why this matters to you. The mainstream media tells us Michelle Obama is a rock star among the American people. Kimberly Klacik is a previously unknown Black American woman running for Congress in Baltimore, Maryland, as a Republican. Klacik's viral ad has received more than 4 times the viewership of Michelle's DNC speech. Michelle Obama equates Marxist wealth redistribution with empathy, a false and evil deception, using government coercion to take from some to give to others, develops no virtue whatsoever, no compassion, no generosity, no faith in the ability of people in need to improve their lot in life. America's founding messages still resonate. That's why Klacik's ad went viral. And that, my very fine friends, is America Can We Talk for today. Thank you so much for tuning in every Monday through Thursday, 3 p.m. Central Time to America Can We Talk. On social media, I'd love your help. You know what you need to do. Like, share, subscribe. All those things are tremendously helpful to my show, and I appreciate, and also feel free to get in touch with me. You can email me at americacanwetalk@gmail.com. I appreciate every one of you listening to my shows. Tune in to America Can We Talk every day, where I always talk truth about America because America matters. And I'll talk to you next time.
America Can We Talk? Truth about America.
Can you